On October 28th, Brazilians elected far-right leader Jair Bolsonaro as their new president. Bolsonaro had already secured 46% of the votes in the first round, held on October 7th, and he went and moved on to win another 55% of the votes in the second round runoff against leftist candidate Fernando Haddad from the Workers' Party. The elections took place in a highly polarized environment, with supporters and opponents of Bolsonaro taking the streets to stage demonstrations both before and after the election. The president-elect has won global headlines for his controversial comments, including racist, homophobic and misogynist comments. Bolsonaro's success in the ballot box lies in the fact that he has been able to present himself as an anti-establishment candidate right at a time where Brazilians are fed up with mainstream political parties, most of which have been tainted by the ongoing car wash corruption scandal. Bolsonaro's anti-corruption message, as well as his tough stance on crime, have also won him the support of a substantial part of Brazil's electorate. Bolsonaro has also campaigned on a liberal economic platform, promising to reduce the overall size of the Brazilian state, to reduce state intervention, and to provide a better operating environment for businesses. While a substantial part of the local business community has been willing to give Bolsonaro the benefit of the doubt, investors will be closely watching whether he will be able to use his political capital to implement meaningful reforms to address Brazil's fiscal concerns and to improve the overall operating environment for companies. The president has promised to implement a pension reform. That is a key pillar of its fiscal austerity plan, and has also pledged to reduce corporate taxes and improve the environmental licensing process, reducing the traditional delays that have taken place in the approval process particularly for major infrastructure projects. Bolsonaro's political party, the PSL, has also fared relatively well in the legislative elections. However, the next president will face Brazil's most fragmented Congress in history, with over 30 political parties represented in Congress. The next president will thus require a lot of negotiation skills to ensure that he has a meaningful ruling coalition that will allow him to implement his reform agenda. Bolsonaro's controversial rhetoric, including authoritarian traits, means that opposition will be fierce not only in Congress but also in the streets. Contrarists anticipates a series of demonstrations to take place against the new government. Critical to watch in the first year is whether Bolsonaro's economic team will be able to implement austerity measures, notably a pension reform, to rebalance public finances and address Brazil's mounting fiscal deficit, which last year stood at 8% of GDP. Addressing the fiscal situation is critical to reassure investors that Brazil remains a viable economy and an interesting place to do business. Bolsonaro will also inherit an economy willing to accelerate, with GDP forecasts for next year standing currently at 2.4%. However, much of that goodwill relies on the government's ability to implement a reform agenda, and more precisely to reassure investors that it remains committed to tackling Brazil's fiscal situation. In the external front, Bolsonaro promised a stricter or closer alignment with US President Donald Trump, including stepping up criticism of China's investment in Brazil and promising to move Brazil's embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. On the trade front, the new government intends to move away from Mercosur to give Brazil greater ability to negotiate bilateral free trade agreements directly with other countries, particularly with developed economies. The new government will also inherit a challenging situation from a security standpoint, with Brazil's homicide rate increasing slowly but steady over a decade. Brazil's murder rate currently stands at over 30 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants, one of the highest in South America.